strike while the iron is hot. If you don't strike while the iron is hot, you'll have to put it back in to the heat source to actually heat it back up to that critical temperature. Welcome to your Consulting Business Podcast. My name is Russell Pearson, and this is episode number 32. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about a trap that I see consultants, business owners, specialists falling into time and time again. In fact, it's the thing that causes potentially you to go 2 steps back every time you go 3 steps forward, and it hampers progress. And before I tell you specifically what it is, let me touch on the concept itself. Now, you may be aware that I am a blacksmith, and in my spare time, that's what I do. I heat metal up. I get a hammer and I have an anvil, and I beat that hammer onto a metal, and that metal changes shape and transforms into something, ideally through process, long and lasting. And it's interesting what your hobbies teach you. And I'm sure you have hobbies that have taught you things through your life and your career. And if you don't have a hobby, a third space outside of, let's say, your relationships and family, outside of your professional life, then my recommendation is certainly to do that, to start bringing something that is yours back into your life, because it's going to help with all sorts of different areas of your life, whether they be mental health or even just the ability to focus and recharge, the ability to recharge your batteries when it comes to being able to put your best foot forward with those other areas. So whether it be your professional life, whether it be your family and relationships, even friends. So you've got a hobby. If you don't have a hobby, go get one. Because these hobbies, they teach us so much. Now, my hobby being blacksmithing has taught me a lot, and I actually look through that lens of blacksmithing in a lot of the lessons I've really learned about business. And today's challenge, today's trap that I want to talk about, the thing that actually causes people to go 2 steps forward, two steps back, 2 steps back every time they go 3 steps forward, has actually got this amazing analogy to the blacksmithing work that I do. Now, you may be aware of how blacksmithing works. In fact, there probably are some blacksmiths in the audience. If you're in the audience, raise your hand, say hello. All right, so when it comes to blacksmithing, there is a couple of things you need. Number one is you need something that you're going to mold, all right? You're going to not just mold, but you're going to shape into probably something new. So from one shape into another shape. We're going to move the shape. We're going to create or transform something into something else. Now, what's interesting about that is that there are techniques for adding metal onto metal to actually create more substance and more depth. But interestingly, most of the time, we actually work with the initial piece of the initial source material and then transform that into just about anything. So most of the time, the raw material that we have has everything that it needs in it. It is ready to go. All we need to do is apply heat and then pressure to transform it into the thing that it needs to become, and ideally the thing it's destined to become, right? So we have metal. Now, in the blacksmithing process, we use heat to get it to a critical temperature. Now, that critical temperature allows the molecules to separate a little bit. It allows it to be able to move and change, very much like clay or putty. With enough pressure, it moves in that fashion. You hit it on an angle, it moves at an angle. You hit it in the center, it moves on both sides. You can taper, you can shape, you can change it and transform it into something new. So you heat it up to a critical temperature. Now, I think that temperature is about 1800 degrees when it comes to Fahrenheit. I think it's about 900-ish when it comes to Celsius. But the critical temperature is this orange heat. It actually turns black metal orange, and that's how you know that it's ready to go. Now, to put that heat into it takes a lot of energy. Takes a lot of energy to heat these things up. And when I first started blacksmithing, I would use coke, which is this refined coal, to burn to heat up the metal. So it takes, we know how coals go. Coal comes out of the ground, right? It has energy stored in it. We set it alight, and it slow burns to produce heat, and that energy as heat actually heats up the metal. It transfers to the metal. And it's a great way of doing it. There's all sorts of reasons why you would use coal, but what I did find, it was a bit messy to use coal, so I've now gone with a gas forge. Either way, it still requires a lot of energy. Now we're looking at gas and the gas form. Now, I'm sure there are actually some really good sustainable ways to do this, but that's not the point of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that we use all this precious energy. We use this energy to apply it to the material, to the metal, to heat it up to a critical state. Now, that costs time. It costs money to actually get it to this critical state. And then we pull the piece out of the fire. We actually take it out of the fire, and the second we take it out of the fire, it starts to lose heat. We lay it on an anvil. The anvil draws heat from it. We pick up our hammer, and as we go to strike, if we haven't struck soon enough, that metal has actually cooled down. It has changed its color, and it's no longer malleable. It's no longer easy to move. The moments that pass between the second you take it out of the heat to the moment that you hit it with a hammer, as long as that takes, the more difficult it is to start reshaping that metal. And most of the time, if you don't strike, and there's where the old concept, strike while the iron is hot. If you don't strike while the iron is hot, you'll have to put it back in to the heat source to actually heat it back up to that critical temperature. And daily, I am seeing consultants, super smart people, right? Business owners, specialists in what they do, putting all this energy, whether it be time, whether it be money, whether it be resources, into getting momentum going for their organization, going for their sales process, going for their marketing process. They're starting to get attention. They're starting to bring people into their world. They're starting to get pipeline created for their business. They're starting to actually get opportunities landing on their table. And what do? They stop. They go, you know what? Things are starting to go well. It's time to take a break. And that's right at that moment that they take a break and they step away from the business. They go on a holiday, whatever it might be. They stop. And the second that they stop, the second they take the energy, the heat off the momentum they've created in their business, every moment that goes past, it cools down. And it cools down further and further and further until they return to the business and find it cold, right? And when you return to the business to find it cold, that momentum's gone. The momentum is gone. The moment is lost. The opportunity to strike has disappeared. And so how do you go about managing your momentum? How do you go about managing your energy so that you can ensure that you complete the process that you're doing, that you actually take advantage of the energy that you're putting into your business so that you can strike while the iron is hot, actually move the business toward the shape that you're creating before you would go and then put more energy back into it. There is a moment to do that. And one of the processes that we tend to recommend and teach within the Forge business program in particular is that you don't do work so you can rest. You rest so you can do work. And I used to have all sorts of different examples of this in all sorts of different marketing, but the best one is trade shows. I saw it all the time in trade shows. For years, I worked in trade show spaces, different trade show spaces, and I would work with an organization who would attend a trade show as if it was a launch. They would go, all right, we need to prepare for this. We're going to book a booth. We're going to get ready for it. We're going to create all this material around it. We're going to create this good looking stall. And they get to the event and they go, we're here. We're finally here. It's over. Which is anything but the truth. Because when you arrive at the event, that is the starting line. That is the first point of contact with the opportunities in front of you, who are the prospects actually at the event, and the follow-up with those people after the event. It starts at the event. And so how do you go about ensuring that you manage your momentum, you manage your energy, so that you're not taking a break just as the momentum lifts, just as the momentum starts, just as the iron is the right temperature to strike, to move, to shape, to transform. How do you ensure that you don't do that? Well, number one, you need to plan with it in mind. So what does momentum look like? How long will it take for us to take advantage of that momentum, and ideally put something in place to capture that momentum so we don't slide backwards? Now, an example of how we can put momentum, we can put actions in place to capture that momentum. Let's say that we've got a contact, we'll call it a campaign. There's a certain campaign that we'll do, and we've never done it before, so we're going to try it out. All right, great. We're not sure if it's going to work, but we're going to give ourselves this amount of time to see if it does. And you might have done it before and it didn't work, but you've got a different strategy this time, different nuance. You apply it. You take a week. It starts to work. Okay? And you go, oh, that was a lot of energy. I'm going to take a break now. So instead of taking the break, all right, my recommendation is this is the time to start. This is the time to push forward. Now, I'm sure that there are people on the line who are feeling incredibly tired. I'm sure that there are people who are listening to this going, but I'm exhausted. How can I put more effort in? We need to plan to ensure that if you're not going to have the energy, that something is going to be there to capture the opportunity. And so let's say that we take this campaign that takes a week. We go contacting the people we want. We start picking up some of these appointments. Now, instead of stopping at that point and saying, I'm going to rest on my laurels, I'm going to take the appointments and then I'm going to start again, we'll go, okay, that worked. It worked really well. So how can I systemize that? How can I put someone in to start making those contacts on my behalf? Can I put a system in, technology, whatever it might be, to automate those contacts? It worked. The process worked. How do I have it repeat so that, number one, I'm not going to lose the momentum I've already got. I'm not going to go backwards and have to start again. But number two, so that I don't have to expend that energy again, because I've gone through the design phase. I've gone through the foundation phases. Now it's time to systemize and apply it to my practice or apply it to my business to ensure that it is there as a consistent approach that continues to consistently grow my business. So momentum, striking while the iron is hot. What does that look like in your business? Think about times where you've worked really hard and you've started to get the momentum. Now, you may have stopped at those times. Would you do it differently now? Can you take a rest before you start a campaign? Can you take a rest before you go and create an initiative or a project to ensure that you have the energy to do what you need to do to complete it? We all have a start, maintain, and completion process. What does complete look like for you? And I would suggest until you actually get the momentum, we're not even in maintenance. We're only starting, right? So we start, we maintain, we take advantage of the opportunity, the old make hay while the sun is shining, and we complete down to the specific outcome that we were looking to get. So momentum. How do you strike while the iron's hot? How are you bringing that into your business? Now, I'm going to get on to my book recommendation in just a moment. But before I do, if you are not already part of the Future Proof Business Group, you can actually find us over in Facebook. Plenty of people in the consulting space don't love Facebook. You usually like LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Love to connect with you there. Russell Pearson, double S, double L, the way Russell should be spelt. But on Facebook, the thing I like about Facebook is it has like this sort of 24, 48-hour response rate. People tend to be on it more often, which means that the conversations are much faster and more energetic. Whereas on LinkedIn, the average, believe it or not, I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's 2 weeks is the average contact time on something like LinkedIn. So while LinkedIn has many fantastic properties, I prefer the conversation and the speed of communication on Facebook. I know a lot of people use that for friends, but hey, let's become friends and then it won't be a problem. If you haven't subscribed to this show, make sure that you do, whether it's on podcast and you're listening through your listening ears, or whether you're looking through your looking eyes and actually watching it on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe here so you'll get more of these videos, just like the one that you got today. We do a episode every day. You can get more resources if you go to consultingbusinesspodcast.com breakout.com. We've got past episodes all stored there. We've also got a resource that you can download. The resource changes from time to time, so I won't specifically say what it is because you might be watching this in a couple of years' time. It will look different when you go and have a look at it then, aka now. Again, my name is Russell Pearson. Let's get on to the book review. All right, welcome to the book review. So today's book review is this one here, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. This is the book. And it's a fantastic book. It's one I read, I think, decades now ago. Like it's one of the classics. But it does talk to the thing we were discussing today, which is striking while the iron's hot. In fact, when it comes to Eat That Frog, the concept very much is do the thing that's probably the yuckiest thing to do in the morning. Consider it the frog that needs to be eaten. How do you get rid of that thing that you're going to procrastinate on, the thing that you're going to put off? If you can get that one thing done each morning, then it's going to make the rest of your workday so much easier. So it's going to create momentum for your business. It's going to create momentum for you in your life. And I think Brian Tracy's got a hell of a lot to talk to in that space. So click there. Actually, you can't click on there, but in the link below, you'll find in the show notes that there is a link to that Eat That Frog book, and you can get a copy of that if you don't already have it. Thank you for watching this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you once again and listen to the episode for those people listening on the audio podcast. My name is Russell Pearson. Visit all the links, click all the things, tap all the bells, do all that. Till next time, stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now. Now that you've watched this episode, you might want to watch another episode, which you can get by clicking right here. I'll see you in the next one.